Thank you very much indeed, Martin, for that vision of the future, and a very exciting one too. The next session is taken by Tonia Forsyth. Tonia is Senior Manager with 20 years' experience in project management, specialising in coastal and marine cross-sector partnership working. She developed the Marine Energy Pembrokeshire project after initial survey work on economic potential in the coastal zone of Pembrokeshire. And Tonia will be speaking on supporting the wave and tidal industry and giving an overview of the work that the Marine Energy Pembrokeshire project has been involved in over the last 12 months.
Thank you, Nick. Firstly, just before you leave, I'd just like to thank the Minister for her attendance here today, despite the difficulties, and also for providing that sort of policy context for our discussions later on today. I'd also like to thank Martin Murphy, as always, for an excellent industry perspective. This is an exciting time for Wales in terms of the wave and tidal industry. However, we mustn't be complacent. There are obviously some significant challenges ahead of us, but we do believe that the end result, the prize, is worth fighting for. And so we believe that is really beneficial for not just for the industry itself, but also for the people of Wales, with the birth of this new industry, as we develop a new low-carbon, green economy and high-value jobs for future generations. So today, we would really like to explore those opportunities in more detail with you, and to better understand how we need to move forward now over the next few years to accelerate this exciting industry. So over the next 15 minutes, what I'd like to do is just give you a brief update on what's happened with the industry over the last 12 months. A little bit on Marine Energy Pembrokeshire. There are lots of new faces here today, so I just want to explain to you a little bit about who we are and what we do, what we've been working on over the last few years, and our future priorities. And then finally, I just would like to give you a brief demonstration of the work we're doing on consenting at the moment. We will be looking at it in more detail in the workshop, but I'd just like to give you a brief demonstration. Okay, so as we've heard this morning, the UK is in an excellent position at the moment in terms of this new industry as global leaders. And also the industry is now maturing. We're now seeing a real move from single device demonstration to installing multi-device arrays. In the last 12 months, there have been 12 large-scale prototype devices deployed in UK waters. And that is more than the rest of the world combined. So this is really significant for us. Seabed leases have been awarded for 1.8 gigawatts, and that includes the Northern Ireland leasing. Major engineering firms, as we've heard, are now entering this industry, and that really demonstrates to us there's a growing confidence of the role that wave and tidal can play in this industry. So we've heard this morning about the excellent news with marine current turbines, and obviously the work that TEL are doing. Obviously there are lots of other companies, many of you are here today, who are also looking to get your industry, your devices progressing, and we're here very much to support you in any way that we can. We're also pleased to hear that the Crown Estate are looking to potentially invest up to 20 million in this industry. We very much hope that one of those will be a Welsh project, obviously, and I'm sure we'll hear all about that and the Crown Estate's work a little later on. So in terms of policy, Edwina Hart really set the context for that today. There's this strong support for this industry. And Martin also touched on the fact that there are some concerns at the moment with the new body, Natural Resource Wales, and what impacts that could have on the sector. We did have discussion with Natural Resource Wales, who unfortunately couldn't come here today for obvious reasons. They are very busy at the moment preparing themselves for the 1st of April. However, they have asked if they can meet with Marine Energy Pembrokeshire at their next meeting, and we can really look at how we can work more closely together for the future. So we see this as an opportunity for us to really improve how we do consenting and licensing in Wales. Just a little bit about Marine Energy Pembrokeshire. Really, it started in 2010 with our first Marine Energy seminar, and it's been going from strength to strength. It is a partnership between technology developers, supply chain and academia and the public sector working together to establish Pembrokeshire as a centre of excellence for sustainable marine energy generation. So, membership of the group, there's quite a few members. We have Welsh Government, very important, and we actually have several departments of Welsh Government. So we have BETS, the business team, but we also have policy, and we have been also working very closely with the Marine Consents Unit. Academia, particularly CCAMS and LCRI Marine, have been involved, and statutory bodies to include the Port of Milford Haven, Pembrokeshire County Council, Pembrokeshire Coast National Park, and Countryside Council for Wales in an advisory capacity. We also have the Crown Estate, Renewable UK are also members of the group, and of course, last but by no means least, we have the developers and supply chain companies. Now, it isn't just companies looking at Pembrokeshire at the moment. We can't be too parochial here in Pembrokeshire about who we involve in our group. I think given where we're at, we need to be working closely with as many companies as possible and really encouraging best practice and sharing of resources. So we have a number of companies who are interested from around the UK, as you can see from this. So what we do through Marine Energy Pembrokeshire, very much an important role for us is in keeping the industry up to date. And we do this through a variety of mechanisms, but particularly through our website. And we now have, I don't know if you can see here, but we've now introduced a new section on the website. It's a developer's widget, as they described. And essentially what that will do is for developers, they will be able to go in through there and they will be able to access the new MRES, the Marine Renewable Strategic Framework, and also the consents guidance, which I will talk about in a moment. We are always looking for other ideas of things that you need, so please do talk to us if you feel that there's something else that we could be included in the website. We are also alerting you to the different things that are going on which may be of interest, such as recently the natural heritage mapping through CCW. And of course we have our annual seminar here each year. So we also on occasion represent the sector, and we attend a range of meetings, and also we facilitate responses to consultations on your behalf. We believe that this industry, it's vital that we involve the wider community, and so it's very much about now looking at how we can involve the supply chain. We're going to be working closely over the next 12 months with Regen Southwest. Johnny Gowdy is here today, hopefully, and also with Renewable UK and Invest Northern Ireland on developing a new UK wave and tidal supply chain database. And we also we work very closely with the research institutes to make sure that their work is closely aligned with the needs of industry. Again, we'll be looking at that this afternoon in the workshops. Other activities that we're increasingly being involved in now are the skills and education, and really trying to identify what those skills needs are for the future, and also careers events, and we do a schools program and talks to the general public. Probably a really key part of our work is the support and guidance that we give to industry. And we do this through a variety of ways, but it's very much about connecting industry with the knowledge base. We've heard this morning about the fantastic MRES, which is here today for you to have a look at if you haven't already. It's a fantastic piece of work that's been done by Welsh Government, and it's now been updated so that it will improve the accessibility to it, and we're very keen that developers are aware of its existence. We also ensure that we signpost to all sorts of support and funding that's out there, and again we'll be looking at that in our workshop this afternoon. We run our meetings through Marine Energy Pembrokeshire in Cardiff to make them as accessible as possible to industry and government, And the next meeting will be on the looking at the consenting with Natural Resource Wales, who are going to be with us, and we're going to look at how we can work more closely for the future. So just going briefly on to consent mapping now. Now, these are screenshots. I wasn't brave enough to try and do it live through the internet in case it didn't work. But David Jones will be showing it in the workshop session on consenting. So this is a screenshot. Obviously, this is all interactive, web-based. We're working on it at the moment. It's due to be completed probably by late spring. And we've been working very closely with Tidal Energy Limited and Marine Current Turbines to make sure that it is relevant to Wales, that it's easy to use for you, and it contains as much valuable information as possible. And as I said, this is all going to be available through the website on the developers section. So if we now take the pre-application discussion, if you click into that, then they will give you further information. And this basically will tell you what you need to be considering before you meet and what you need to gather. It will also give you the contact details of who you need to go and talk to, which is obviously very important. It will also give you timescales, which I think is absolutely crucial, to give you an idea, certainly from the experience of MCT and TEL, how long it took in each of the different stages of the process. So for EIA scoping, so there's some example here of the sorts of things that you need to include, and also it will contain the EIAs for both TEL and MCT, so you can look at examples. There's also lots of other advice there and documents, supporting documents to assist you. So what we've made sure that we've done is to provide that UK consistency, is to look at what's been going on elsewhere in the country. And of course that is also a key role of MEP, is to ensure that we are collaborating with the rest of the UK. We've worked very hard over the last few years to get out there and try and get Pembrokeshire on the global marine energy map. And we were very surprised initially to discover that Wales wasn't even on companies' radar. So there's been a lot of work to do to try and raise our profile. And we've believed that part of this was about doing joint marketing with other organisations, and we've been keen to promote that. And certainly at the last few events, we've had a Welsh stand, and that's made a big difference. We've had lots of different organisations there, and it's really helping to make the case for Wales. We're keen to develop that further, and so if any companies are interested in participating in that for future events, then please do come and talk to the team today. So we're also collaborating with the other parts of the UK, and in particular we've worked a lot with Regen Southwest, and we've attended a number of their tidal energy forums. We met last week with Anglesey Energy Island and key stakeholders up in the north, and that was really in response to a paper that we put to Welsh Government before Christmas on the proposal for Marine Energy Wales. So this is essentially trying to really join things up a little bit more in Wales than they have been to date. And it's providing a formalised coordinating all Wales group and a shopfront or an entry point into Wales for developers, so that we ensure that we give them all the support and advice that they need. It's providing a stronger voice for industry and integrating all our activities in Wales, and also ensuring that our interests are represented on a UK basis. It would create a Welsh marine energy brand, and of course, very important, and we'll be talking about it later today with WEFO, it could be a potential vehicle for future funding, and so we'd be particularly keen to explore that, certainly with the recommendations of the Marine Energy Infrastructure Study work. So just to finish off, today's event has been organised following lots of discussion with companies, and also by scrutinising last year's feedback forms. So I can't leave today without urging you, in your delegate packs you will have feedback forms. Please do fill them in, because it really does help shape future events. So I'm now going to hand back to Nick. I hope you have a useful day today, and thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much indeed, Tonia, for putting that into the local context so effectively. The next session we have is being led by John Oates and Mike Cummings. When I saw those names, I thought it sounded like a highly successful folk singing act, but I'm assured that that's not what they do in their spare time, if they have any. John is responsible for mobilisation and management of the Energy Wales programme of the Welsh Government, and Mike is responsible for marine energy policy in the Welsh Government. And they're going to give an update on the Energy Wales programme and the Welsh Government response to the Welsh Marine Energy Infrastructure Study, the next stage. Thanks very much.
Good morning, everybody. It's a lovely place to speak, I have to say. My name's John Oates. I'm the Energy Wales Programme Manager, as Mr. Bourne pointed out. What I just want to do here is offer a little bit of context about Wales. I won't bore you too long about that. It is important to what I have to say later on. Just a little bit about the Energy Wales Programme to spread this beyond marine and then bring it back to marine in a little while. I am going to be handing over to Mike Cummings at some point in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Mike is very down in the detail with all the MRES work and the Marine Energy Infrastructure Study. If I was going to talk about it, I'd be mute. So we're trying to do this as a double header. That's better. Just as a little bit of context, the blobs on the screen are the low-carbon developments that could happen within Wales in the next 5 to 10 years. There's quite a few, isn't there? The size of the blobs relates to the megawattage. The smallest blobs is less than 50 megawatts, which for marine is slightly differently, but if you're on shore, that will tell you that that's actually consented within Wales. And actually, if you look at the sectors, there's 11 sectors there. And so what we've been trying to consider within Welsh Government is, given the breadth, given the scope of what we'd like to achieve within Wales, given that what we want to do is deliver low carbon so that it achieves economic, social and environmental benefit for Wales, how do we best organise ourselves to add value to industry, to add value to our communities, to actually contribute in the most positive and effective way, really. Last March, the First Minister launched Energy Wales, a low-carbon transition. And that was essentially broken into 3 sections. The first was about leadership. So the First Minister essentially talks about setting up an energy programme to better coordinate Welsh Government effort. We also talk about infrastructure and trying to map out and improve our infrastructure understanding and get involved where we need to. And the final element was probably the single biggest concern, certainly for developers on the beach, which is planning and consents, and how, within the powers that we currently have, how do we make that as effective as we possibly can. But there's also a piece in there about continuing to press the UK for further devolution of power. The second section was about wringing as many benefits out of developments as we possibly can for Wales and targeting our efforts to do that. Sometimes, I guess, in rather frustrated moments, I will say to, sometimes developers, I guess, if it's delivering a big grey box in Wales that delivers no benefits to Wales, we don't want it. If it's going to deliver a grey box in Wales that actually delivers social, economic and environmental benefits, that's something that we want to help with. The final section was more about innovation. It's about getting involved in things that are perhaps not going to deliver huge numbers of jobs in the next 12 months, but actually what we're trying to do is recognising the opportunities that Wales has to try and bring forward a couple of industries and really contribute. And one of those, of course, was marine. So, in essence, within the First Minister's strategy, marine is pretty much up there with one of the top priorities. This is really boring stuff, but what I'm trying to explain here, really, in many ways, is what we're trying to do to try and coordinate our effort a bit better internally. We've identified in the green boxes some key delivery themes And underneath it, there is a lot of horizontal lines. They're enablers, really. So those are the things that we're trying to bring together and deal with en masse within the Welsh Government, and see how we take forward our approaches in order to help the green boxes deliver, I suppose. I think this is the point, really. I'll hand over to Mike. I guess the point I was trying to make in the previous couple of slides is there's a lot of things that we can do within Welsh Government in order to support a huge number of industries. Some of them industries that are very mature, some industries that are less mature and need a different type of help. What we're trying to do is coordinate our efforts to add essentially to a value chain. We're trying to understand what the building blocks of value we can add and the areas that we should be trying to focus our efforts. Mike, though, now is going to just speak for a couple of minutes about what we've done over the last few years.
Okay. Okay. Got to learn how these clicker things work. Well, good morning. Thank you, John. I would just want to start by saying that the Welsh Government is really committed to working with industry, regulators, seabed owners, and the whole range of stakeholders that we find represented in this room today. We need to work together to realise the sustainable exploitation of our wave and tidal resources. We all have a part to play. At the risk of sounding like a UK government minister, we're all in this together. And I hope that today it will foster the need for, but more than that, it will actually result in greater collaboration. Big thanks to Marine Energy Pembrokeshire for all the effort that's gone in today and all the other... Is this number 4? Number 4. We've moved on so much in Wales as a result of these seminars, and I do hope that it continues in that vein. So what has been our role to date? We said we've got a part to play, but what part has the Welsh Government played over the last 3 to 4 years? Where have we concentrated our effort to date to develop marine energy in Wales? I'm afraid a lot of what I'm just going to touch on briefly you've heard of already, but I think it's important that you guys hear it again, just to hammer home really some of the messaging. Back in 2008, as early as then, we started a process to ensure the sustainable development of marine energy in Welsh waters. The Marine Renewable Energy Strategic Framework, and you have to say that no quicker than that, otherwise it ties your tongue up in knots, mapped the environmental, the technical, the socio-economic activity in our seas. Why? In order to assess, first of all, the practical energy resource that we can expect to extract from Welsh waters. So not a theoretical or technical resource, but very much a practical resource. But secondly, to identify the significant constraints to development. Now, I thought land-based planning was difficult until I started working in energy and in the offshore environment and started looking at marine spatial planning. If you think it's difficult on land, try working in the offshore area. So that is a massive piece of work. It cost the Welsh Government nearly £1 million to develop this over 3 years, and it is, as what's been described already, a significant development, a significant tool to, well, as an aid to development in Wales. We've heard already that the new web-based GIS constraints mapping has been completed, and it's been demonstrated today, throughout the day. Those already developing in Wales and known to us, so if you are developing in Wales and you are not known to us, please come and introduce yourself throughout the day. We'll be receiving the access details to that new piece of work over the next few weeks. I'm pleased to say that through negotiations with the UK Government, the Welsh Government has secured the increase of subsidy available to wave and tidal technology, and, as importantly, secured an equalisation across the devolved administrations. So from the 1st of April, wave entitled technologies will be eligible for 5 rocks, regardless of whether you are developing in Scotland or whether you are developing in Wales. We've always recognised the great importance of our universities and academic excellence in Wales. We've invested in the Low Carbon Research Institute, set up to unite and promote energy research in Wales and to help deliver a low carbon future in Wales. The Marine team, which is led from Swansea, have organised their research. This research work very much around assisting in answering the environmental and engineering concerns, providing that important information required to reduce risk, but to instill the confidence in the industry in order for them to make an investment in Wales. Our other academic collaboration, CCAMS, continues to come alongside business to grow the marine and coastal sector. Marine energy very much features in a strong part of their programme of activity. The team enjoyed last year a successful research trip off Anglesey and a tremendously successful Marine Energy Conference, and I hope there's more to come in 2013. But carrying on from the MRES work, the Welsh Government commissioned a marine energy infrastructure study. Let me go back there. Now, first of all, it was to appraise the infrastructure. Sorry, I keep jumping. First of all, it was to appraise the infrastructure needs of the industry, but more importantly, to identify actions needed to accelerate the development of the sector in Wales. It's already been mentioned this morning that perhaps Wales need to play catch-up with Scotland, or maybe Wales need to play somewhere else in order to give itself more of an equal footing within the sector. It's a question for us to debate and to ponder on later. But the study was completed in December last year. We've taken some time to consider the options and the recommendations that have come forward. Big thanks to Chris Green, who's led the team there from Halcrow. The recommendations and the options, well, the options, first of all, there's a number of options for investment in grid infrastructure and a number of lower cost recommendations to remove potential barriers to development. The full recommendations and the grid investment options will be presented in the workshops later this morning and this afternoon. I really do hope for a tremendous session where we can glean your understanding and your feedback on some of these recommendations. We have our own thoughts, and John will come back in a minute and share some of those, but we very much want to use today to gather your feedback and certainly your buy-in. We don't want to work alone here. We want to work collaboratively with the whole of the sector. More recently, the Welsh Government has commissioned a marine economic valuation study. It's very much in the early stages, but this will forecast the potential economic value to Wales of exploiting our key marine energy resource areas. To attract new business and industry to prime locations, to create jobs and sustainable growth, the Welsh Government established 7 enterprise zones. 3 have an energy focus. We've already heard about the Energy Haven Waterway. Anglesey is the second and Snowdonia is the third. Now, these enterprise zones offer enhanced capital allowances and a business rate scheme aimed at boosting job creation and business growth. Well, for EU structural funds, we made good use of these from the start, with both marine current turbines and tidal energy receiving awards. We aim to ensure that structural funds continue to support the growth of the sector, and I'm pleased that my colleagues within WEFO are represented in 2 of the workshops today. And we trust that going forward, the next round will help to support the growth of the industry. But again, discussion is to be had in the workshops later today. The Welsh Government, lastly, also offers repayable business finance. We launched the Welsh Economic Growth Fund earlier in the year. I keep moving that slide. The fund is open for, just a little plug really, the fund is still open for expressions of interest until the 4th of April. For applications of between 50 and 100,000, but applications for over 1,000 and over 100,000 will be taken from autumn later this year. So, what does the work on the MRES and the infrastructure report tell us? Well, I think like every other report, collectively and fundamentally, that we need devices in the water. That won't come as any surprise to anybody here in the room, and it seems logical, I know. But fundamentally, we need devices in the water. But separately, the MRES has given us a library of data to aid site selection decisions by reducing consenting risk, and have shown us where our strategic key resources are. The infrastructure study has given us a good foundation on which to build, a starting point by setting out the measures that are needed to increase the attractiveness of the Welsh resource and a number of grid development options to exploit our key resource areas. So in terms of future support, where do we go from here? Much of the same? Or is it time for something different? We'd hope to get your feedback on those answers throughout the day to inform our future plans. John.
Yeah, so as Mrs. Hart mentioned earlier on, an open door policy, and what I hope is we're going to exemplify this for the rest of the day, really. Clearly, we've taken the outputs of some key pieces of work. We've looked at some of the constraints that we have within our organisation. We've looked at the nascent nature of this industry, and we've come to some early views on where Welsh Government activities should be placed to support this industry moving forward. But these are our views. What we want to do for the rest of the day, really, is test those views and seek feedback from the people in this room, people who know more about this industry than we do, frankly. One of the great attractions for us for speaking at this event was the 4 workshops that essentially cover the ground that we've been covering internally, which is what are the key levers that we can help to pull to take forward this industry. So is it infrastructure, is it business support, supply chain activities? Do we need to develop our evidence base further, the policy positions further? And so with the 4 workshops later on this afternoon, Welsh Government has come down a little bit mob-handed, because what we want to be able to do is capture the views of all the people in this room, with the idea that we will go back and then work up some of that thinking a little bit further. Some of the early thinking that we've done, just to be, I don't know whether this is going to be hugely controversial and people are going to start throwing rocks at me, or whether this is going to gain general nods. But our initial thinking is areas in which we perhaps can work to greatest effect. And this isn't just about Welsh Government putting in cash. This is about working with the industry, but areas that we can get involved to drive forward the industry. There's a fair amount of work that we can potentially do around our evidence and policy positions and our understanding of key strategic sites. Does that mean strategic environmental assessments? Does that help to de-risk sites? Strategic surveys, perhaps, that will look in greater granularity at certain sites. On the infrastructure side, should we be trying to put into place significant amounts of onshore or offshore infrastructure? Is the time right now? Is the time right perhaps in a couple of years? Those are the kind of questions that we've been asking ourselves. Our business support and support of developments is reasonably well established, but what else is it that we can be doing? We've got a piece of work being undertaken by Carbon Trust at the moment that is looking at offshore research and development and innovation and the opportunities that we have in Wales, and focusing down on what the opportunities might be for us. So that's potentially spitting out a little bit of evidence in the coming months. Planning consents. Mike suggested that it was difficult in the water. It's difficult pretty much everywhere, really, to get consent for development. So, we are likely to be bringing forward a devolution business case to support the First Minister's ambitions of bringing consents to Wales. There are various finance levers we can continue to pull. Are they the ones that we've been pulling in the past? Are they the right ones? Do we need to do things differently? The Welsh European Funding Office have been very keen to position energy in general very, very strongly within the consultations that are currently out there at the moment for structural funds. Happy to get your feedback today on that. And there's a lot we can do around comms and no doubt around skills, such as skills needs analysis. So it's just a very, very quick canter through, and that probably covers all ground, really. There are a lot of green things there, which early priorities. But within that level of prioritisation, well, is that right? Is that the right high-level prioritisation? But within that, what is the priority? And again, where is it that Welsh Government can support this industry most effectively? So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.